What is the one common thing that is in the minds of all Kenyans, or a majority of Kenyans, that is detrimental and therefore needs to be dealt with to make a better society?
The rebellion part of us.
So much focus is on Gen Z. We have not had a generation before that kila mtu ako zile za now Gen Z, now Gen Z.
What is Gen Z?
It's like a force.
So I have the Gen Z spirit, but I lack the Gen Z age. Am I still Gen Z?
We can't say a 50-year-old is a Gen Z. They are not typically Gen Zs. Because kuna venye sisi tunaongeanga, kuna venye sisi tunasee live, kuna hata relate. Because nikikuja hapa nianza kusema clock it, period, para.
What is the role of Gen Zs in societal transformation?
My thought is,
in the year 1925, the great Indian revolutionary, that is Mahatma Gandhi, published a list of 7 social sins. He expressed them in his then famous magazine called Young India. And of the 7, it included wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, commerce without morality, science without humanity, religion without sacrifice, and politics without principle. Now, although the great Indian revolutionary was 55 years old then, he still captured the spirit of revolution in his generation, and the ability then to influence what needed to be influenced so that systemic change may actually happen. I've said that to say this. Today we are privileged to host those who hold the spirit of revolution in our generation. And we're going to be having an amazing conversation about Gen Z and the role in societal transformation. My name is Charles Adinda. Welcome to the Culture Clash movement. All right, I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves, and then we will proceed. As usual, because of etiquette, ladies first, right?
Hi guys, my name is Wambaika Mwangi. I am a youth empowerment strategist and a performing arts coach. And above all, I am a Gen Z. Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Miss Wamaitha. Go ahead, sir.
Hi guys, my name is Gladness Mine. I'm an artist, pencil artist work, and I've also studied ICT and storekeeping. Yeah.
Wow. It's fantastic to have you guys today.
It's okay.
We really just want to have a conversation that we hope begins to transform the software of what we need as far as transformation is concerned. So let me ask, primarily, what do you think is societal transformation? Is there a need for us to transform society? What is that? What does that look like for you? And why is that something important that you think should be focused on? So let's start with Mr. Gladness.
For me, societal transformation, I believe it's an alignment of a person, of people, and systems, and you as an individual with God's original intent. And in simple terms, I'm trying to say is where a man's heart and God's heart align, and then they begin to bring that change brings what we call influence to the people.
Wow. So you talked about alignment, God's heart and a man's heart aligning.
Sure.
Okay. We'll delve into that later. Ms. Wamaitha, what is societal transformation?
Okay, for me, I think most of the times when we're talking about transformation society, in the society or in the community or even in the nation or the globe, we tend to focus more on the system transformation, but I feel like it starts with individuals, starts with culture, starts with mindsets, starts with character, then we talk about the system later. So when we mix the culture, the mindset, the identity, the character, and then mix the system into it, then we bring a revolutionized system, or we transform the society better like that.
All right. You've mentioned a couple of elements there. You've spoken about individuals. You've talked about culture. Then you've built that up into now the society and the ability to transform. I want us to break down particular things that we're talking about here. What is society? What exactly is society? What's the difference between, let's say, a family versus society? What's the difference? Because there are many corporate groups. So at what point does a corporate group now become a society? Ms. Omaitha, go ahead.
Okay, we have families, we have different institutes, but I feel like when you bring together the family, the corporates, the church, the religion, everything else now forms a structure, and we call that society, because society cannot be individualized, society cannot be institutionalized, it can't be governmental, it is all scopes together that forms a society. So you can find people, a society of people that think the same or have the same mindset, or have, so it is not based on institutes, family, all that are different units of what we call a society into my thinking.
All right. So basically, you're saying a society is an ecosystem.
Yes.
That's what you're saying. You're saying different elements of an ecosystem that bring about a particular degree of sustainability that makes a society.
Yes.
All right. Any thoughts, Mr. Gladness?
For me, I'll just support what she has said. It's coming together of those families, communities, different churches, and all that. When they come together, they form that ecosystem, what you're calling the society. And it's according to me, they look up to one person who has that mindset so that they can be able to sustain it together.
Interesting. Who is that one person?
That one person is, it can be a leader, it can be the one who is above them, the one who is creating for them what they are going to look into so that they can sustain it together.
Oh, wow. So this is quite interesting. You said a society looks up to one person, and yet Ms. Wamaitha just said a society is built from individual level.
Yeah.
So it's almost as though there's an individual at the bottom and there's an individual at the top. But again, we'll continue revisiting that. So that's society. Both of you have basically defined that as an ecosystem. All right. Why does that ecosystem need transformation? Why can't we leave it the way it is? After all, society has existed for a while, right? And we can just say bad people will continue to be bad people, rich people will continue to be rich, and poor people will continue to be poor. And it's every man for himself. Let everybody just do their best, and let the chips fall where they will. So why do we need transformation in society, Ms. Omaitha?
I feel like, and I truly believe, every time a man is on earth, they have to make it better. So the people who lived, generations that lived behind us, in as much as we are now exposed to better information, they made the world a better place. The things we are enjoying right now, it is because of what they did, the labors, the sacrifice. So for society to transform, we need to make the society a better place to live. That's why we just can't say, let us just stay like that, let's get comfortable. What about the future generations? Because what we do today will affect what becomes of the future. So that's why we need society transformation.
So you bring in the concept of future generations in basically being able to create a better environment for those who are coming into the future. I could sit down and say, look, the future generation should think about themselves, me, I'll think about myself. I could actually do that, because I'm like, them, they won't think about my life. So me, I'm going to, and the people who came before me, I really didn't ask them to think about my life. So me, I'll just think about my own life, while I will let then the future take care of itself and themselves. What do you think about that, Mr. Gladness?
For me, I'll say the transformation is needed because we actually look into the future. And we as a generation, as we are, the Bible says in Romans 12 verse 2, be ye transformed and renewed of your mind. So the transformation, I believe, we need it not just because of our behaviors, not just because of our daily activities, but we need to make it as a habit. Let me say not habit, but as a main thing for you, so that you can show it as an example for the future generation.
Why is it important for me to be an example to future generations? That's my point.
So the future, if we don't form the example for the future now, then we don't have the future. So they are looking on, as I said before, there are people who are they are looking at who is leading, and they begin to follow who is leading. So they are looking unto us.
There's a statement you said there. If we don't form an example for the future, we have no future.
Yeah.
That's a heavy statement. Essentially, what you're saying by that statement is taking care of the future is taking care of ourselves. Because if we don't think about how the future will pan out, we may get into a future that is undesirable for us simply because we didn't think about the future. And the future then is a combination not just of insights and principles. The people are at the center of that. Therefore, we need to think about those who are coming in the future.
Sure.
It's almost as though, to give an analogy of one of my mentors recently told me, he was telling me, the irony of life is that when you start life, your parent you.
Yeah.
And then as you get older, you start parenting your
Yes,
parents.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So imagine then, for a parent who did not consider the future and did not take responsibility to parent their children for the future, the day they need parenting, there will be nobody to parent them. Right? All right. So we've been able then to at least define terms. Societal transformation. What is society? Why society needs transformation.
Sure.
Right. Okay. Let's bring this to our context today. A contemporary context and a Kenyan context. Right. All right. What is the greatest area of transformation that is needed presently today? If you are to be asked, okay, now that we've determined society needs to be changed and we need to make it a better place, and if you're to be given all that power to make it a better place, what's the one thing you would deal with as a priority? That this is the first thing that needs to be changed, and not just the first thing, but the most urgent thing, the most important and urgent thing that needs to be changed so that we can have a better society presently in the context of Kenya. Ms. Omaita.
Mindset. We have to think about it in a mindset, because that's where everything else falls. Bible says that what a man thinketh, then he becomes. So it starts from the mind. That is where we have the culture, we have the character. It is built from the mind. So if you can transform the mind first, then everything else is going to be aligned. Because when you transform the mind, someone is going to change how they think, it's going to change how they talk, it's going to change how they see things, it's going to change everything they relate to. So if you start with the mind, everything else becomes aligned to that specific thing you've dealt with, and that's the mind. So we have to have a mindset shift first.
Okay, so now indulge me, Ms. Omaitha. What is it in our minds as Kenyans? Mm-hmm. So in the mind of our present context, what's the one thing that needs to change the most? Because you see, the mind is a very wide space, right? But as far as the thinking of Kenyans or the mentality of our present society, what is now the prime thing that we need to start dealing with as far as a bullseye is concerned in terms of our mind? What is the one common thing that is in the minds of all Kenyans or a majority of Kenyans that is detrimental and therefore needs to be dealt with to make a better society?
When you talk about the mind, it's big, right?
Yeah.
It's quite big. But I feel like it's how we think. The thinking aspect of it has to change.
Okay. The thinking aspect needs to change. So for something to change, I'm sure you guys are probably geniuses, as opposed to some of us who had to be a bit of slow learners, but or learn repeatedly. For something to be changed, there has to be a former state,
Yes.
right?
Sure.
True.
So there is egg, larva, pupa, adult, right? There are stages of transformation, which means there is no way we reach butterfly stage before defining what the egg is.
Sure.
Because we've got to be able to define the present state, and then define the desirable state, and then define what the bridge to that is. What I'm asking is, what is our present state? I want us to define what is the present system of thinking that you feel needs to be changed
Okay.
as a society. What is it that we are thinking as a hard society together? A mindset. You know how people can say this is a Kenyan mindset, or this is the mindset of this particular group of people. I want to know that what is our butterfly, but before we get to our butterfly, what is our egg? Yes, that's what I want us to define. Go ahead.
Now, you see, as you say, before we think about change, there has to be something that we feel like this kitu might change or lie. So I kind of feel it's the culture we were brought up as speaking as Gen Zs, we are Gen Zs.
Yeah.
It's the culture. We found things being done a certain way. We found culture systems being done a certain way. We found religion being done a certain way. So I think there has to be a paradigm shift of the culture that we found ourselves into. So when we start to define everything that needs to change, it is gonna be a lot. It's a whole conversation of what needs to change. But the ground, the foundational culture that we found is, I feel like that's what we first have to address. The things, how we found our parents thinking, how we find the information gap that we found, the loopholes that we found in the society when we were brought up. I feel that's what we have to think about, the paradigm shifts of that specific areas.
Wow. Okay. Mr. Gladness, you will indulge me
Yeah.
over the same matter. I want to know, if you were given all power, all authority, right? What is it that you would handle first? What in your opinion, what is the one thing? I know because we're humans, we can't really change everything.
Sure.
But now, what would you change with everything, every resource at your disposal? What needs to change?
For me, number one, I'll change the rebellion part of us, because most of us, we have a very big rebellion part, but we don't have the asset of replacing the rebellion. So you find many of us, we have number one, we have the lawful side, we have the side that is judging everything. Now come to the Kenyan mindset. We have a president, tunajua tunasema preso kuna venye anatufanyia si hivi tunataka, but we do have the replacement, but are we sure that is the one that is to make it? How sure are you? So we have to have a correct perspective to replace the rebellion.
Okay. Define rebellion.
Rebellion is challenging a system without another perspective of it. You're challenging a system, asking questions about the system, yet you don't have the solution for it.
Oh, okay. So what you're saying is, if you had all power, the first thing, or rather the most important thing, the foundational thing that you would handle would be our ability not just to diagnose problems,
Sure.
but to create solutions.
Yes.
Okay, so essentially then we are agreeing, this is a tough agreement, but we are agreeing anyway that as a society, we are problem first, not solution first.
Sure.
All right. We're a problem first society. Let's answer this question. I have over the last few questions that I've asked, I have consistently had someone in this panel that I will not mention, proudly, in fact, wearing it as a badge, almost as a crown, that they are Gen Z. And I want us to then define what is, firstly, let me ask this question. Is Gen Z an age bracket? Is Gen Z a mindset? is Gen Z a movement? What is the Gen Z? What is Gen Z? Let's start with Miss Wamaitha. Now that
Gen Z is everything. It is a movement. It is a generation. It's like a force. Gen Z has everything. It has everything to do with the age. It has everything to do with the time we were born. It has to do everything to do with the information we have. It has everything to do with the movement that we are creating. Gen Z is all that.
Okay.
It's not just an age group that from 17 or from 13. No, it has age, yes, because we can't say a 50-year-old is a Gen Z. They are not typically Gen Zs. We can't also say that it's just only the age. We can see what the influence that Gen Z has even to the nation is a bit. That's why it's a bit technical. That's why so much focus is on Gen Z. We have not had a generation before that kila mtu ako zile za now Gen Z, ama millennials, na baby boomers. Okay, I was not there when there were millennials or baby boomers, but right now, our Gen Z wanafikiria nini? Our Gen Z hawakuji kazi. Our Gen Z, everything is about Gen Z. So it's not only about the age, it's also about what we are bringing onto the table and what we are creating as a group or a generation.
Okay, now we need to answer this question. If I remove the age aspect and say that I am, let's use the Gen Z word woke, that I am woke, which means I am aware of what is going on presently and proactively working to address what needs to be addressed, whether at individual or communal level. Essentially what I'm saying, if I have the Gen Z spirit, but I lack the Gen Z age because I cannot go back and become 24 right now, am I still Gen Z? A good example of that, I go political a lot because I don't like discussing philosophies without personalities. I feel like it's like we are in a geography or history class. So I go personalities a lot. If Nelson Mandela was present today, a man with the spirit of revolution through and through, a progressive thinking man. In the Kenyan context, if Raila Odinga was alive today, again, a man who has been the forefront of the Kenyan revolution for a while, or even in the present moment, let me even go to someone who is presently alive. We have CJ Maraga, former CJ, a man who first one to ever announce elections, really thinking progressively, not just a critic of government, actually looks to offer particular solutions. Is he Gen Z? Would we be qualified in calling him Gen Z, as even though the age does not allow him to fall within that category?
In my opinion, no, he's not a Gen Z because you cannot remove that age from it. But what I would say, he might not be a Gen Z because Gen Z is typically that age of teenagehood and all that. And where we are at right now, what I would say is they are having the same thing that Gen Zs have is access to information, access to the ability to think differently, access to the ability to have a revolutionary mind. So what I would say is they have the Gen Z spirit, but they are not Gen Z. So we can accommodate them in our circles because let me tell you something. Even though they have the Gen Z thinking, wakikuja kwa Gen Z hawatafit. Hawezi fit in. Because kuna venye sisi tunaongeanga, kuna venye sisi tunasee live, kuna hata relate. In as much as ako na spirit yetu, kuna vitu hata relate nazo. Because it's just a Gen Z language. Because nikikuja hapa nianza kusema clock it, period, para. As much as you have that Gen Z mindset and aspect, you're not a Gen Z. Because kuna vitu tutafanya and will not be in agreement. But the disruptive part of it, he might fit to be a Gen Z. But the other thing about the Gen Zs, he might not fully fit into it. So you might have the Gen Z spirit, but not be a Gen Z. So, yeah.
Okay, take it as you will. Gen Z wannabes, you have been answered. I want us to get into... So we talked about Gen Z, talked about societal transformation, what that is. What is the role of Gen Zs in societal transformation? I want to know that. And the reason I want to know that is, do they have a distinct role? The society is composed of different components. If you were to go to age, we would say our society has anything from their non-generation to baby boomers to millennials to Gen Zs to Gen Alphas. All that is society. So as Gen Zs now, in the context of that society, what is the role of Gen Zs? What do you think what mandate has been placed on Gen Zs to transform society that is not a role that is present in any other of those generations? Mr. Gladness.
So for me, I believe Gen Z, for now in the community, their role is bringing what, as I said, it's mostly as it looks like they're bringing the digital authority. They're bringing the digital authority, and they are also coming up with the systems that can be able to accommodate even the others that they are coming up, and also accommodate those who are ahead of them. Yeah.
All right. Aren't you to give us, I understand you do a lot of missions, evangelism and all that. Tell me the difference between perhaps doing missions or going that side with millennials and Gen Zs. How does that look like? What is the flavor that Gen Zs bring into such a space?
Okay. Now, for the Gen Zs, you find many of them, they can be able to win souls through online TikTok live. They are doing, some of them, you find them preaching, influencing people online, TikTok lives. They do videos, they spread them. But when you look at the previous time, you had to go out, you had to step on ground for them so that you can preach to people. And you find that many of the people even now, they are those who can be able to get that same word, that same preaching through the online. So this is something that Gen Z have brought. You know, for example, right now, if we post something online, one conversation, it shifts the whole conversation of the nation because of that authority that they have in the digital world of Gen Z.
All right. Ms. Wamaitha, any thoughts?
Well, Gen Z have a role. Of course, we have a voice, we have a role. We are the voice generation. We question everything. We want to know why are we doing this, the way we are doing it. That's why we feel like Gen Zs are too much. We're not just too much. We just want to understand why are we doing this the way we are doing things. But now, my thought is we are a quarter. In the population of Kenya, we are 30% of the population. We have influence because one, we are able to mobilize people without even. You see, let me give you an example. City lighters. City lighters, I feel like it's a church for Gen Z. He does not, Reverend George doesn't have to do a lot to just bring those people united. He just puts a poster and says there'll be dance, music, and all that, and our whole stadium can be filled by Gen Zs. Why? Because we feel like we need something different. We are not the type that will sit down and listen to you, and we might even question. We are like listening to that person. We are like, from what train of thought is that coming from? Not really because it's wrong, not really because he has not mastered what he's doing, but we really want to understand. The real problem is people feel like Gen Zs are too much, but the whole point is we want to understand. That's why we are asking a lot of questions. Why is this way? Not because we are rebellious. There's a bit that is rebellious, but the whole point is why. Why? We want to have a deep analysis of what is the society about, what is this thing about. And another thing is Gen Zs are both extremes. We do not have black and white Gen Z. I'm a gray area. It is either black, a very notorious Gen Z, or a very disruptive Gen. We do not have Gen Zs don't have lukewarms. It is either they're on the extreme side or the other extreme side. So if you have to change this one, you can find a very because let me be biased a bit. I love God and I love Jesus. You might find very zealous. I have seen Gen Z pray. Gen Z can pray. The same Gen Zs are being told, these people are not doing what they're doing. If you find them in a church pray, they'll be like, wow, these people love God. These people love Jesus. Or give a scenario of Rema Feast, and in as much as Rema Feast is a whole nation conference, the people that come there, most of them are Gen Zs. First of all, why? Because most of them work at home. Most of them do not have offices to go to. Most of them are in as much as not as occupied. You will find them there. And then go to the other extreme side of the other the one level. You will find Gen Zs in the most extreme side of the world levels. Why? Because you'll find even people telling you there's a term it has evaporated where they have out of bodies experience. Spiritually, this is not a born again believer, but she can tell you, by the way, me, I'm having an out of body experience. I have forgotten the name. If it comes, I'll tell you. And you'll find there's both extreme levels. There's no gray area. It is either we're extremely bad or extremely good. We do not so if this extremely bad person decides to change, you'll be like, wow. So like for me, I was like, people know I was the most rebellious part of the family as the black sheep. But right now they're like, you should be like Komaita, you should be like Komaita. The same kid that was labeled rebellious, the same kid that is being labeled as disruptive and transformative. Why? Because you don't have the gray area. The thing is, the Gen Z are bringing the liveliness. Tukikuta kwa event mazee, tuko lively, we have the zeal, tuko na energy, because these are teenagers. These are people, they are youths. We are overzealous. When it matters God, we are overzealous. When it matters politics, we are overzealous. That's why you found millions and thousands of people on the streets demonstrating, well, because we have a lot of time, a lot of information, and a lot of energy. Yeah.
Okay. The term you're looking for, I think, was astral projection.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Out of body experiences. Okay, so now let's talk real solutions.